Hello, mythology enthusiasts. Today, we're journeying into one of the greatest legends of the North, a conflict that shook the cosmos and even turned the gods against each other. The Aesir-Vanir War. This wasn't just a clash of swords, but a clash of two different worldviews, two distinct lineages of gods. On one side stood the mighty Aesir, guardians of order, war, and honor. They lived a life of feasting in the glorious halls of Valhalla, a life echoed with the clang of swords and tales of heroism. Odin, Thor, Tyr, each one a symbol of power and honor. On the other side were the mysterious Vanir, gods of nature, fertility, love, and consciousness. Unlike the cold, stony realm of the Aesir, their lands were filled with lush green meadows, bountiful fields, and the peaceful sound of flowing water. For centuries, a fragile peace existed between them, a peace that would suddenly end with the shadow of a guest arriving at Asgard's gate. That guest's name was Gullveig, with hair that shone like gold, like the sun's first rays, and a cloak that seemed to be made of liquid gold. This enigmatic woman was a Vanir, but she was no ordinary Vanir. She was a powerful sorceress whose magic could influence all things. When she stepped into Asgard, she brought with her an idea that had never belonged in the world of the gods before: the lust for gold. Until then, honor and glory were paramount for the Aesir. Wealth was nothing more than a spoil of war. A god's worth was measured by their sacrifices and bravery on the battlefield. The greatest desire was not to accumulate gold bars, but to fight honorably and earn a place at Odin's table in Valhalla. However, Gullveig began to subtly destabilize this ancient order. Her magic made gold so enticing that it slowly seeped into the minds of the gods like a poison. She whispered to them of how gold could buy anything, how it could bring them greater power and prestige. Some of the gods couldn't resist this new and tempting idea. Gullveig used gold to perform magical rituals, hosted lavish feasts, and drew the gods into her enchanted web. This began to corrupt the spirit of the Aesir. The insatiable appetite for gold led to moral decay, sowing the seeds of competition and jealousy among the gods. Gullveig's presence deeply troubled Odin and the other wise gods. They decided to get rid of this dangerous sorceress. Asgard's bravest warriors captured her, pierced her with spears, and threw her into a great bonfire. But even as the flames consumed Gullveig, her body quickly turned to ashes, only to be reborn from them, each time more powerful and brilliant than before. She was like a phoenix. The Aesir repeated this torment countless times, and each time she grew more resilient. She was no longer just a person, but the physical embodiment of the tension between the two divine lineages. This drove the Aesir to a frenzy. They concluded that the Vanir must be supporting Gullveig to make her so powerful, and in a fit of rage, they held their kin, the Vanir, responsible. Odin, with all his might, hurled his mighty spear Gungnir toward the Vanir army. The spear flew, piercing the sky, and landed in the Vanir territory. Two great god lineages who once respected each other were now sworn enemies. With the start of the war, the cosmic balance in the Norse universe was thrown into chaos. Asgard's magnificent halls echoed with war cries, while the peaceful realm of the Vanir was shaken by the clashing of swords. This conflict was not merely for land or revenge. It was a war of opposing philosophies of existence. The Aesir were gods of war, order, and honor. Their power came from the sword, the hammer, the spear, and the shield. Odin's strategic mind, Thor's immense strength, and Tyr's unyielding courage on the battlefield made the Aesir army invincible. For them, the greatest virtue was to die honorably in battle and earn a place at Odin's table in Valhalla. War was a part of their life and identity. Every dawn brought a new challenge and a new opportunity for heroism. However, the Vanir operated with a different kind of power. They were nature itself. Njordr, who commanded the waves of the seas, Freyr, who brought fertility to the fields, and Freya, the goddess of love, mysterious prophecy, and magic. Their power came from creation and the cycles of life, not destruction. Their weapons were not swords, but the wind, the sea, and magical words. War was a last resort for them. The purpose of their existence was to nurture and cultivate life. With the onset of the war, these two different powers stood against each other. The Aesir attacked the Vanir's settlements and lush green meadows, while the Vanir used their magic to stop the Aesir's armies. It is unknown how long the war lasted, but sources state that both sides suffered heavy losses. The Aesir's superiority in battle was balanced by the Vanir's mystical magic and their command over the cycles of nature. Neither the Aesir could completely destroy the Vanir, nor could the Vanir dismantle the Aesir's order. The war had reached a terrible stalemate. The lands were scorched, and the rivers ran with blood. Yggdrasil, the world tree, trembled under the weight of this senseless war. Both sides were forced to face the reality that this destruction could not continue forever, and if it did, the entire cosmos could be annihilated. Faced with this terrible truth, the gods slowly let the clang of swords cease and decided to sit down at the negotiation table for peace. Their eyes were weary from the devastation of war, and their hearts were exhausted from this pointless enmity. Peace had become an inevitable necessity. After the devastation of the war, the gods gathered around the negotiation table for peace. But how would they bridge the deep chasm of mistrust between them? The solution was found in a hostage exchange. This was not just a trade of prisoners, but a historic moment where two different cultures and philosophies would merge. Both sides were to hand over their most valuable beings to each other. The Vanir sent their most sacred and powerful gods, the very heart of their family, to the Aesir. These hostages represented the soul of the Vanir. Njordr, the mighty god of the winds and seas. A king in his own realm, he would now be a guest among the Aesir. His arrival was a harbinger of a peace that would ensure the lives of sailors. Freyr, the god of fertility, abundance, and the summer season. With his arrival, even the infertile lands of Asgard would become more bountiful, and the fields would fill with golden wheat. Freya, the goddess of love, beauty, and war. Most importantly, she was the master of the deepest magic, Serd. She would become a bridge between the two worlds, a force that could unite hearts and souls. In return, the Aesir sent two of their most revered figures to the Vanir. Hoenir, a handsome and powerful god. The Vanir believed they would benefit from his warrior spirit and accepted him as a figure of leadership. Mimir, one of the most knowledgeable beings in the cosmos. His well would be the source of wisdom for which Odin would sacrifice his eye. Mimir's wisdom was invaluable to the Aesir, and giving him up was a great sacrifice. But this peace was not without its problems. The Vanir soon realized that something was wrong. Hoenir was unable to make any decisions on his own. Whenever a question was posed to him, he would constantly turn to Mimir, whispering and seeking his advice. Hoenir can think all he wants, but he can only make decisions with Mimir, became a mockery among the Vanir. They felt the Aesir had deceived them by giving them a useless god. In their rage, they cut off Mimir's head and sent it back to the Aesir as an act of revenge. When Odin received this tragic gift, he embalmed Mimir's severed head and, using magical herbs, made it speak again. From then on, Mimir would be a timeless advisor, whispering wisdom to Odin forever. Though this bitter incident showed how fragile the peace was, the hostage exchange ultimately worked. The two different cultures began to learn from each other and unite their powers.
The Aesir-Vanir War didn't end with the silencing of swords. Instead, it left behind a restorative and lasting legacy that would shape the future of Norse mythology. The most significant outcome of this war was the merging of two different divine lineages, creating a unified whole. This wasn't just a peace treaty, it was a cosmic integration. Now Odin's warriors were united with Freyr's fertile fields, Thor's thunder with Freya's mysterious magic. Two distinct cultures began to learn from each other and combine their strengths. It was as if the missing pieces of a great puzzle had finally come together. The Seder magic brought by Freya added a new dimension to the world of the Aesir. The Aesir, who were superior in combat, now also possessed the Vanir's deep knowledge of nature and prophecy. This fueled Odin's insatiable hunger for wisdom. The whispers of Seder may have paved the way for Odin's discovery of the runes. This exchange of knowledge and power was crucial for the gods' preparation for the coming apocalypse, Ragnarok. Now, not only brute force, but also mysterious magic and profound wisdom were their greatest weapons. This new alliance was their last hope to stand against fate. This peace treaty also contains one of the most fundamental lessons of Norse mythology. Power and honor alone are not enough. For lasting order and peace, wisdom, nature, and life must also be in balance. The lust for gold brought by Gullveig led even the gods astray, dragging them into a senseless war. This isn't just a divine story, it's also a warning for humanity. Unchecked greed and avarice can lead to the greatest destruction. This is why, in the end of this war, the gods never again attacked each other, instead choosing to unite their powers to protect the cosmic balance. They had learned, in a tragic way from Mimir's fate, how fragile that balance truly was. Thanks to this unity, the gods could form their final resistance before the coming apocalypse of Ragnarok. But until that day, the Aesir and the Vanir would stand shoulder to shoulder, determining the fate of the world. In the next chapter of these epic tales, we will discover the incredible price Odin paid for his own wisdom. We'll see how he sacrificed his eye for eternal knowledge, and how he hung himself on Yggdrasil for 9 days. See you on our next adventure.